This Sigma boy received the most overpowered ability in an apocalyptic world. Here's how it happened. The manhwa begins with the protagonist, Jung Gyom, meticulously listing packages on a conveyor belt. As he worked, he chatted with a robot, but the robot, seemingly uninterested, left mid-conversation. Jung Gyom glanced around the facility, noting that everything was managed by robots, leaving him the only human there. Jung Gyom's circumstances had taken a downturn after his discharge from the army. His family had called to inform him they were relocating to Uijeongbu, leaving him alone. Living in a small studio apartment, he struggled to find a job to cover his rent and expenses. His attempts were met with rejection, including a cafe that turned him down due to his lack of experience. To add insult to injury, his sister texted him, mocking his misfortunes and calling him a fool. She eventually suggested working at a shipping company, claiming it would be easy since robots handled most of the work. Following her advice, Jung-gyum secured a position there, though he later described it as a cold mistake. It was too uneventful for his liking. One day his boss, Mr. Shin, informed him that the canned tuna stock was depleted, though the robot Pax insisted otherwise. Tasked with verifying the inventory, Jung-gyum headed to the storage room. While retrieving a box of tuna from a high shelf, the storage room door abruptly closed behind him. He tried opening it, but it wouldn't budge. Attempts to call Mr. Shin went unanswered, and his sister, upon receiving his text, only mocked him further. Suddenly, his sister called him, leaving him shocked. However, her voice cut off abruptly during the call. Before he could process what had happened, a loud bang reverberated through the facility, shaking the floor beneath him. Alarms blared, announcing an immediate evacuation. Desperately, Jung-gyum tried punching the door open, but to no avail. Exhausted and terrified, he froze when a loud noise came from the other side of the door, leaving a dent. Paralyzed with fear, he felt as though the slightest sound could end him. His legs gave out under him as dread overtook him. 3 days passed. Jung-gyum sat on the floor, eating a can of tuna and thanking the facility for having enough provisions to keep him alive. Out of boredom, he turned on his phone, only to have a system interface suddenly appear. Initially thinking he was hallucinating, he read the system message offering him a skill called My Parallel Dimension, the ability to store a single item in a parallel dimension. Still skeptical, he jokingly commanded the system to store the shipping facility. To his astonishment, he found himself on dusty ground as the facility vanished. Standing up to examine his surroundings, he realized he was in an abandoned city under blood-red clouds, devoid of life. Nearby, he spotted Mr. Shin, beaten and lying on the ground. Nausea overcame him and he vomited. He saw a massive shadow, an ogre with sharp teeth growling behind him. Panic set in, but he forced himself to run. The ogre, enraged, gave chase. As the monster closed in, the system reappeared, prompting him to enter the parallel dimension. Left with no choice, he accepted. In an instant, he was teleported to the facility he had stored. Looking back, he saw the ogre standing at the portal, unable to enter. Inside, a drone congratulated him on completing the tutorial stage and rewarded him with a mana crystal. Suddenly, the ogre punched the portal, causing tremors. The system displayed the facility's stats. It could ship objects up to 6.5 feet at 40 miles per hour. Jung-gyum questioned how the facility had electricity, and the drone explained it was powered by mana crystals, warning that power would run out in 2 minutes without replenishment. Realizing the implications for the food supply, Jung-gyum used his mana crystal, which powered the facility for another 24 hours. The ogre continued waiting outside the portal. Determined to fight back, Jung-gyum found a box containing 15 camping axes and threw one at the monster, but it barely scratched it. After exhausting the axes, he asked the robot if there were more. The robot informed him of an item duplication feature within the facility. Additionally, he unlocked a new skill, Ship It, allowing him to launch items at high speed outside the portal. Using the skill, Jung-gyum launched an axe at 40 miles per hour, inflicting significant damage on the ogre. However, the drone overheated due to the skill's cooldown period. The system offered an upgrade option using mana crystals. When Jung-gyum asked how to acquire more, the robot explained they could be obtained by defeating monsters outside. With a plan forming, Jung-gyum decided to venture into the outside world to gather more mana crystals. He packed supplies from the facility, including a bike for transportation, and set off on a journey for survival in this hostile new reality. Jeongyeom had been riding his bike for only a short while when an ogre ambushed him from behind. Acting on instinct, he immediately teleported back to his parallel dimension, leaving both his bike and the ogre outside. Inside the safety of the facility, he used his ship it skill to launch an axe at the ogre. Unfortunately, the attack barely grazed its neck, missing its mark. As the skill entered its cooldown phase, Jeongyeom waited anxiously while the ogre furiously pounded on the portal. At that moment, the system revealed a new skill, Product Recall, which allowed him to retrieve items he had previously shipped from the portal. Using this skill, Jeongyeom recalled the axe and launched it again, this time successfully defeating the ogre. A mana crystal emerged from the ogre's lifeless body, which Jeongyeom quickly retrieved through the portal. Stepping cautiously back into the outside world, Jeongyeom was startled by a piercing screech from above. He looked up to see a flying monster circling overhead, signaling that the threats in this world extended far beyond ogres. As he continued walking, he began to hear unsettling noises all around him, growing louder with each step. Suddenly, a cry for help echoed in the distance. Rushing toward the source, Jeongyeom saw an elderly man being attacked by the flying monster. The creature's tail lashed out, striking the old man and sending him sprawling to the ground. Another man, presumably the old man's companion, rushed to his side, only to freeze in terror as the flying monster loomed over them. The creature locked its gaze on the injured man, ignoring the companion entirely. Paralyzed by fear, the man couldn't move, wondering why the creature hadn't attacked him. Before the monster could strike again, a bell rang out, followed by a blinding flash of light. An object whizzed through the air and struck the flying monster, killing it instantly. It was an axe, launched by Jeongyeom using his ship it skill. The two survivors, initially bewildered, assumed Jeongyeom was a soldier due to his remarkable ability. They expressed their gratitude for his intervention, but Jeongyeom clarified that he was not a soldier, merely a worker who had stumbled into this bizarre situation. One of the survivors, intrigued, asked about Jeongyeom's skill, revealing that he also possessed a skill, one for driving, though he lamented its limited usefulness in their current circumstances. Through their conversation, Jeongyeom learned that there were other survivors in the city, hiding in a warehouse in District C. However, the district was overrun with monsters, and only 15 people had managed to survive the relentless attacks. The survivors invited Jeongyeom to join them at the warehouse. Considering the potential advantages of staying with a group, he agreed. Before leaving, he retrieved the mana crystal from the flying monster and prepared for the journey. Upon arriving at the warehouse, Jeongyeom noticed an older man breathing heavily and standing over the body of a defeated ogre. The sight left him unnerved, realizing the strength and resilience required to survive in this world. For the first time, doubt crept into his mind. Had he made a mistake by joining these people? Mr. Choi asked the group if they were all right. The mysterious old man reassured him that they were fine, though he added that the ogre had somehow found its way into the warehouse. This surprised Jeongyeom, as the survivors had previously claimed the warehouse was safe from monster attacks. Mr. Choi introduced Jeongyeom to the group, mentioning that he had defeated a wyvern using only an axe. As Jeongyeom was processing this, a woman approached him and grabbed his hand, thanking him profusely for saving Yongsu and Byung-cheol. The group showered him with gratitude, clearly relieved to have survived. The old man introduced himself as Jinmok Lee, a former manager at a shipping company. He explained that Yongsu and Byung-cheol were like family to him, having worked together for over a decade. To ease Jeongyeom's worries, Jinmok assured him that there was enough food for everyone, and if supplies ran low, they could always restock from the warehouse. However, Yongsu interjected with grim news. The warehouse had disappeared without a trace. This revelation left the group stunned, though Mr. Lee remained composed. He speculated that the worsening situation in the city, now overrun by monsters, required immediate action. He proposed a plan to escape through a tunnel, reasoning that staying in place would only lead to more danger. The group, galvanized by his determination, quickly gathered their belongings to prepare for the journey. Curious, Jeongyeom asked what the tunnel entailed. Mr. Lee explained that the survivors all needed to reach different locations, but the roads leading out of the city were mostly impassable. The northern route was blocked by a golf course, the eastern road by shipping containers, and the southern Yongdong Highway had collapsed. The western route was the only viable option, though it was heavily patrolled by wyverns. Mr. Lee offered Jonggyum the choice to stay behind, but Jonggyum insisted on joining the group, partly because he needed a vehicle himself. Despite his outward agreement, he remained cautious, wary of revealing his abilities to people he still didn't fully trust. Jonggyum decided to scout the tunnel on his own, planning to clear the wyverns quietly. While reviewing the system, he discovered that he could unlock new skills for 10 mana crystals. Relieved that he had saved his mana crystals instead of upgrading existing abilities, he grinned at the opportunity. However, before he could act, Yongsu insisted on accompanying him, reasoning that Jonggyum didn't know the area well enough to navigate back alone. Reluctantly, Jonggyum agreed, though he remained determined to keep his abilities hidden. On the way to the tunnel, Jonggyum asked Yongsu about his driving skill. Yongsu explained that the system had appeared only once, granting him the ability to drive any vehicle effortlessly. As they drove along the treacherous roads, Yongsu adopted a strange posture, claiming it improved visibility past the numerous abandoned cars. Suddenly, Yongsu spotted a wyvern in the distance, though Jonggyum couldn't see it yet. As they approached, Jonggyum warned Yongsu to keep his eyes on the road and not look back. Using his ship-it skill, he defeated the wyvern without exposing his ability. As they neared the tunnel, Yongsu abruptly stopped the vehicle, his face pale with fear. They were surrounded by a swarm of wyverns. Trembling, Yongsu muttered that they were doomed, but Jonggyum realized he had no choice but to reveal his skill. Using his remaining mana crystals, he reduced the cooldown of Ship It and launched a series of attacks, successfully defeating the wyverns. Yongsu, bewildered, muttered, "Pax," as he witnessed the skill in action. With the immediate threat neutralized, Jonggyum retrieved a mana crystal and told Yongsu to stay close. Another wyvern lunged toward them, but Jonggyum struck it down with an axe. When yet another wyvern attacked, Jonggyum opened a portal as a trap, luring the creature in before finishing it off. Impressed by Jonggyum's resourcefulness, Yongsu marveled at his abilities, joking that he could clear the entire tunnel by himself. Jonggyum deflected the comment, though inwardly he knew it wasn't far from the truth. Back at the warehouse, Yongsu couldn't keep quiet and announced to the group that Jonggyum planned to clear the tunnel on his own. Shocked but unable to deny it, Jonggyum played along, confirming that he would begin the task in the morning. Mr. Lee approached him with a serious expression, handing him food the group had saved up as a gesture of gratitude. The others chimed in, expressing their thanks and admiration for his bravery. Touched, Jonggyum accepted their offering, knowing that turning it down would seem ungrateful. That evening, the group celebrated with drinks, toasting to their hopes for survival. By morning, Jonggyum reassured them once more before setting off. He pedaled his bike straight toward the tunnel, steeling himself for the challenge ahead.